This is the Marvel Masterworks vidcast, True Believers, where we cover all of the adventures in the Marvel Universe. From the wanderings of the Green Goliath, to the chaotic offices of the Daily Bugle, to the grim alleyways of Hell's Kitchen, and to the top of Avengers Tower. With your hosts, Adam and Chris.
Welcome to another episode of the Marvel Masterworks vidcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Chris. Chris, how's it going?
I am doing very well, Adam. How are you tonight? Lovely to be with you again.
It is always good to be here. And whether we're talking Turtles, DC, or Marvel in this case, specifically, we are going to continue our Daredevil rewatch. The live-action Netflix / Disney Plus, as of now, series. And this week we will be covering Season 1, Episode 3. But before that, as we always do, Chris, if there's news when we record these shows, you and I discuss and dissect that news. And there isn't a lot of breaking news on the Marvel front in terms of upcoming projects. But there is a new MCU film in theaters currently. It just opened the weekend of this recording. And that, of course, is Wakanda Forever, the sequel to Black Panther, which, of course, is forging on despite the loss of its star Chadwick Boseman. It's been well documented that Marvel Studios decided against recasting, and so at some point, somebody in this film, based on the trailers of the female persuasion, given the way the new Black Panther, looks. In terms of size and shape and things of that nature, someone of the female persuasion takes over the mantle of Black Panther. I haven't seen the film, so I can't say who that is. This isn't a review episode, so I wouldn't spoil that, even if I knew, which I do. And I'm not gonna. I'm pretty sure most people have put it together, but I'm not going to spoil that. That's not what I'm here to do. But what we can talk about regarding the film is its estimated opening weekend box office.
Yeah.
And so what we have in the domestic box office is $180 million.
Yep.
Coupled with an international box office of $150 million. For a total of $330 million opening weekend.
Damn. That, good.
Of course,
that's a good day at the office.
Yeah, it sure is. Kevin Feige can buy a whole new closet full of hats that he likes to wear at Comic-Cons and the premieres and things of that. Although I'm sure he probably gets them made by the marketing departments.
Hey, I like my hats too, so I can't.
Oh no, I'm not knocking him. I just I affectionately refer to him as Hat Man because that's what he kind of his persona. It's better than referring to him as a robot, which it's nicer. Which She-Hulk did in jest, of course.
Well, it's like how Steve Jobs had the turtleneck. Kevin Feige has the baseball cap.
Well, he stole the. Let's be honest. I think Steve Jobs stole that from Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, but that's just me. Look, whatever way you slice that, that's an amazing number.
Yeah.
It did come in a little bit lower than the original Black Panther, and it is sort of in between. In terms of box office, it sits in between Thor: Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So it's made more than Thor: Love and Thunder, but less than Multiverse of Madness.
I was surprised to see that this came in behind Doctor Strange. Just based on the success of the first movie, I thought that this one was going to do a little bit better than that. 180 million is nothing to sneeze
Right. Yeah.
at all. But
Sure.
Doctor Strange came in just ahead of it with 187 million. So they're both in rarefied air. I mean, these two movies are 1 and 2 for the year so far.
Well, here's what I assume is the reasoning. At least again, I don't have any factual data that points to these things. I'm just trying to use as much common sense as I possibly can here. And it's a couple of things. So the first thing is time of the year. We're looking at November.
Biggest November opening of all time.
Right. Whereas the original or the Doctor Strange sequel came out in the was it May? Or was it
Something like that. Yeah,
May or June? It was summer, spring, summer months, right? That's a higher traffic time for movie going, right?
sure.
So there's that. Um, the other thing is that you what you have with Multiverse of Madness is a lot of teasing of the multiverse, and there's also cameos by Scarlet Witch. Well, she's a supporting character, Scarlet Witch, and then it has cameos of Professor Xavier in the form of Patrick Stewart, and Mr. Fantastic, which they didn't show, but that kind of stuff. Well, they did show. Sorry, they did allude to Patrick Stewart in the trailers,
They hinted towards that because you saw the
and you
yellow
heard his
share.
voice. And any idiot with a pair of working ears recognizes that's into pop culture, kind of nerdy stuff. Recognizes Patrick Stewart's voice.
Sure.
And so there's that factor, the sort of team up aspect of cameo thing that MCU fans love, right? So there's that, which Black Panther, to my knowledge, aside from introducing Riri Williams uh, and introducing Namor, it doesn't have that cameo factor. Again, unless I haven't come across a spoiler that there is a cameo, but as far as what's being sold to us is not. Hey, look at the cameo fest of
Right.
so and so coming in and that person's coming in. So there's that aspect of it. The other thing to remember is that movie going is getting back to a sense of normalcy from the pandemic. However, I don't think, despite the huge number, so there's no denying that huge number, but I still don't think people are going in the highest of volumes as they were pre-pandemic.
Oh yeah, you're probably right about that.
You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a little bit of that. Now that may hinder it in terms of repeat viewings, because what I feel is that all the hardcore Marvel people have been already taken care of this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not included in that. I was gonna go see it, but my kids come to my house next weekend, and Luke didn't want me to see it before he had a chance to see it. So I said,
So
"All right."
he laid the
"All right,
hammer down.
buddy." Yeah.
The
Well,
boss. We know the boss laid the hammer down. All right, I see
so
how that works.
I told him I'd wait a week. Usually I am one of those opening weekend people.
Right.
Opening night, I usually go to the Thursday night previews,
Yeah.
but this was an occasion where I wasn't able to do that. But
Yeah.
I think it's probably gonna have some legs.
It will, but the question will be again, what I'm seeing from just observing box office for a bunch of movies. There are rare exceptions, but I think the rewatch or repeat subsequent viewing numbers in general are down across the board, especially during weekdays. Again, because I still think we're still in that coming out of the pandemic phase plus time of year. So all these things I think are factors to why Wakanda Forever opened less than both Multiverse of Madness and
The first
and
Black Panther.
the first Black Panther. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, the first Black Panther opened during Black History Month, which was a big,
That's true.
uh,
It was a
uh, which was
February release.
which was a big push for it because obviously because I mean it's culturally relevant. That added to the hype for that film. So there's a lot of factors as to why. I don't think this signals, and I know these articles will pop up, in the next couple of days. Oh, does the opening of Black Panther signal superhero fatigue? No, just let's squash that right now. And I'm going to go one step further. I know that this is our Marvel podcast, right? But we also cover DC, and I'm already seeing from it's either one or the other. Well, look at Wakanda Forever. It outgrossed Black Adam worldwide. Um, yeah, no shit, folks. Like anybody that's pushing the narrative that is somehow indicative of a failure on Black Adam's part is a moron, and I'll tell you why. Black Panther is a sequel to a highly successful first entry.
Sure.
Also, Black Panther at this point in the pantheon of general audiences is more well known than Black Adam because he appeared in two Avengers proper films, correct?
Oh yeah.
Plus what I like to call Avengers 2.5, which was Captain America: Civil War. That will help boost a new character's profile.
Hey man, I was at Old Navy today and I saw a Black Panther hoodie. They didn't have any Black Adam hoodies for sale.
Right. And so and the other thing and now contrast that with Black Adam. Again, as we said in our review, I know who Black Adam is.
Right.
Chris knows who Black Adam is. Most of the people listening to our vidcast and podcast network know who Black Adam is. Why? Because we read the comics. The general audience now has Black Panther in their psyche.
Right.
Now, if Black Adam gets a follow up, which I still believe that it will in some way, shape, or form, he'll appear in other movies, and the JSA will probably get some more things. What I would expect, and what the studio, Warner Brothers in this case, will expect, is an increase of like the trajectory will increase. Will it be in the vicinity of Black Panther? Who knows? At this point, we don't know. What we need to take into account is hopefully DC Studios on the other side of the aisle, which we're fans of, obviously, will in the next couple films we'll start with James Gunn and Peter Safran at the helm. We'll start to build anticipation and hype and have consistency, and thus get to a place where Marvel and DC, in terms of box office performance, consistently are like this, right? So that's the hope. But I think it's very unfair for the keyboard warriors who are well, I'm a Marvel only purist, to now take Black Panther's box office and say, well, look how crappy Black Adam and DC did over here. From that standpoint, Black Adam is a spin-off of Shazam.
Right.
It is going to make more than Shazam. The hope on the DC side now is when Shazam: Fury of the God comes out, it can make more than Black Adam. If that happens, then Warner Brothers will look at their investment in what I'm calling the Shazam verse of movies and say, oh, each film has increased over the last one. This is a worthwhile investment to continue. And thus we'll see JSA projects and Black Adam 2 and Shazam 3 and so on and so forth. But I think we're talking apples and oranges if you're comparing the two. So
yeah,
I would recommend to just if you're on the Marvel side boasting, there wasn't even a competition between the two. Everybody and their mother and all, even non-box office analysts, would have told you that this was going to happen. And if Black Panther didn't have this huge opening, there should be reasons for concern. So this was expected. And if you're on the DC side fretting about, oh my God, we can't compete with Marvel, Black Adam was never designed to compete with a Phase 4 sequel to a popular character. If you want to compare, if you really want to compare, if you're going to sit there and compare Black Adam to previous Marvel movies, look at some of the Phase 1 movies and early Phase 2 movies where new characters were being introduced. Then you can have a sort of more respectable comparison. So both sides, at the end of the day, Wakanda Forever is doing fantastically. It's off to a great start. Black Adam is doing what it needed to do, and it's actually holding up quite well against Black Panther, only dropping 53%. Many people thought it was going to drop a lot more than that. So it's holding quite well. So the genre as a whole, on both the DC side and the Marvel side, is doing well. And that's what we all should be wanting, because the more that happens, the more of this stuff that gets produced.
Yep.
So that's the angle you should be. And that's my PSA for the day. So Black Panther is doing very well. I haven't seen it yet. I will see it when it hits Disney Plus, and then there will be some sort of a review on this channel, whether it's me and Chris or me and Donnie or all three of us. Who knows? We'll see. We haven't done one of those all three of us episodes. We'll have to make a point of doing it for something. I don't know what that would be, but we'll figure something out. But that's the box office news in terms of Wakanda Forever. Now, Chris, we are once after the break, we are going to talk about episode 3 of season 1 of Daredevil, as we alluded to. But before that, Charlie Cox has returned to the role of Daredevil, of course, in Spider-Man: No Way Home, but more recently in She-Hulk episodes 8 and 9. So Donnie and I have reviewed those 2 episodes on the channel. If you haven't checked those out, check them out. But what I want to do now is I want to get your thoughts on Charlie Cox's return as Daredevil in She-Hulk. So give us some of your thoughts.
Well, this was a much anticipated appearance from me. When I heard that he was going to be in the show before the season premiere, when he was in the trailer, I got very excited because I love Daredevil and I love Charlie Cox, as I love his portrayal of the character. Right. And when we saw that he was coming with the yellow and red costume, I was like, holy smokes, this is awesome. This is going to be super cool. So it had a lot to live up to in my mind. And I think it did for sure. Now, this was a different Daredevil, obviously, than we saw in his series. Which his series is very grounded. It's very gritty. It's very brutal. She-Hulk is a half-hour sitcom comedy, so you can't bring the same Daredevil from the Netflix series into this series. He's got to have to fit the surroundings that he's in. So it was a little bit more comedic. He was a little bit more playful. With his banter going back and forth between Daredevil and She-Hulk, I really enjoyed that. It was funny. Charlie Cox had some really great delivery. So I thought they did a really good job with him actually as Daredevil. I really enjoyed the courtroom scene where it was Matt against Jen, basically.
The verbal sparring match. Yeah.
Yeah, it showed that, I like the inclusion of all the legal stuff. That's very core to the Daredevil mythos, to the Matt Murdock character. So it was cool to see him out of his element. I don't know how he had a license to practice law in California, considering he's in New York, but we'll just forego those little things. Because, you have
comic book logic, that's all.
He'd have to pass the California bar in order to be able to practice law there. And I'm not sure he's ever done
maybe
that.
He has.
Yeah, maybe he has. Well, I guess his new costume designer lives in LA, so he has to have a reason to be able to go back and forth, and being able to practice law is a good cover for that.
Yeah, just a lot of study.
Yep. But altogether, I thought it was great. I really liked the interplay between Daredevil and She-Hulk, and between Matt Murdock and Jennifer. And I really loved that at the end. It looks like the two of them are kind of going to be a thing moving forward, because he like meets her family and all that stuff. Family dinner, which I enjoyed that scene too. It was really like nice and like heartfelt. So I'm looking forward to more of that pairing going forward. Hopefully,
I think eventually he'll get with Elektra, whether that be Elodie Young, who played her in the Netflix series, or a recast. I think eventually that'll happen. But in the meantime, uh, I don't mind seeing this pairing, and I'm sure a bunch of shippers will come up with it with a name for them. I mean, would it be She Devil, Dare Hulk? What would it? I don't know what it
Daredevil.
would be. I'm not good at this thing, but I'm sure the shippers will figure it out. If they haven't already, I'm sure they have. But what did you think of the scene at the warehouse, the hallway scene that they tried to do on She-Hulk?
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah,
It was a nice homage.
yeah, yeah. I thought so too. I thought it was well done. Obviously, it's not the same length or intensity or caliber of the one that we just saw in the last episode we reviewed, but
No,
I thought it was pretty solid, and it was a nice nod to that fact. And as you pointed out, that suit looks great. Um, I don't know how long he's going to be in that suit, but um,
well, I hope the bummer part of him having a new tailor is that maybe that means we won't be seeing more of Melvin Potter on the upcoming Daredevil Born Again. And I really like that character.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I, I hope to see him included somehow.
yeah, yeah. I agreed. So we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, I'm looking. If you've watched the channel and you've gone through our She-Hulk reviews, the audience will know that Donnie and I enjoyed She-Hulk. So I'm looking forward to She-Hulk, more She-Hulk in whatever form she appears in, and also I mean, look what we're doing. I'm obviously really stoked about Daredevil Born Again when it comes. It is my most anticipated MCU project, and yes, that includes the fact that I know that Avengers, the Kang, whatever the heck it's called, uh,
Kang Dynasty.
yeah, is coming, and Secret Wars is coming. I know those are coming, but Daredevil Born Again is still my favorite or my most anticipated, I should say,
Interesting.
MCU project because I love the character. For me, he's the Marvel version of Batman. Not I'm not saying, but in terms of my enjoyment of him would be the way I enjoy my feelings towards Batman are that's how I feel about Daredevil in the MCU. So that's what I meant by that. So that's why it's my most anticipated MCU project. But while we're waiting, we're going to continue reviewing the Daredevil series that we got on Netflix, which is currently on Disney Plus, and we will continue those reviews after the break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last.
And we're back. And as promised, Daredevil, Season 1, Episode 3. So, Chris, give us the essentials and tell us a little bit about what happened in this particular episode.
Sure. Well, this episode, Rabbit in a Snowstorm, was written by Marco Ramirez, who would go on to do 6 total episodes of this show and 8 episodes of The Defenders. He also, some people might know his work from like 15 episodes of Sons of Anarchy, which I really loved. So he's pretty prolific in the writing industry. It was directed by Adam Kane, who only did 1 episode of this show. It looks like he's bounced around a lot. He did Supernatural, Sleepy Hollow, Supergirl, Star Trek Discovery. So he's got some good credits to his name
done a lot
too.
of good shows.
But this was the director's only episode of this series. But so basically, in this series, Matt and Foggy are thrown into a game of intrigue when a mysterious company wants to put them on retainer and use their legal services. And as sort of a test to see if they will accept this offer, they are given a case that they must respond to immediately. And this is the case of a guy named, what was his name?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Healy.
Yeah.
There to represent a guy in a murder case. We have seen him in the beginning of this episode crush a man's head in with a bowling ball. So Nelson and Murdoch are put on the case. Foggy is basically thinking that he wants to turn down the case when he's interviewing Healy because it doesn't seem right. Healy's being really super weird. And then Matt shows up and says, we're going to take the case because he knows something's off. He knows something's off with the guy who came to present them with the offer. So they take the case, and basically they're able to get Healy off of his charge. And this isn't good news. You know, it's good for their law firm, but it's bad news for justice. So Daredevil tracks Healy down at night after he has been released, and he pressures Healy into telling him who the man that was sent to them is working for, and he wants a name. Healy gives up the name as Wilson Fisk, and then realizing the error of his ways, immediately kills himself, committing suicide by impaling his own skull on a jagged piece of fence.
That was disturbing.
That was disturbing, and that's basically where the episode ends. There's a B plot about Karen and Ben Urich. So Ben Urich, people will know Ben obviously from the comics, from Daredevil, from Spider-Man. Ben Urich is a very prolific character. He's a journalist, and in this series, he is tracking down the truth about what happened at Union Allied. And Karen is pressured by an attorney from Union Allied into accepting a pretty good sum of money, and but in exchange for signing an agreement saying she won't speak about the attack that she suffered in episode 1 that ended with her coworker's life being taken. She doesn't sign. She rejects the offer, and she goes to see Ben Urich at the end of the episode, telling him that she has more details about Union Allied.
Right. And we even got a little peek at the tail end of the episode of Wilson Fisk.
Yep.
Admiring some art, and he is interacting with Vanessa, who is played by Man of Steel alumni. I can't pronounce her name, but she played Kal-El's mother, Laura.
Yep.
And so there you go.
She asks Wilson how the white painting makes him feel, and he says lonely.
Yeah, you kind of
very bleak and sparse.
Yeah, you kind of feel bad for Fisk at this point, and then
it's like looking at a desolate like snowscape where there's a pitch white all in front of you and you can't see in front of your face.
Yeah. So you feel bad for him a little bit at this point, but then, in subsequent episodes and seasons, he does, kingpin things, and that feeling bad for him sensation goes away real quick. But well done with the summation of the episode. So I really like the legal aspect of it, and then in terms of the sort of flipped feelings that we got from both Foggy and Matt regarding taking this offer, because the person that presents them this offer is Wesley, who I think is that's what his name is.
Yep.
Who, if I remember from the last episodes in the comics, who works for Wilson Fisk, and Matt is apprehensive at first because again, he senses that there's something off about this guy. But whereas Fogg is like, oh, look at all those zeros, we're going to be put on retainer, and we should take this. And then in the course of, as you said, the interview with the client or the person that they're tasked to represent as sort of a test of whether they want to be put on retainer by this firm. It switches and Foggy doesn't think they should take it on, whereas Matt accepts the case. But Matt's doing it because as a means to an end in terms of wanting to figure out what's really going on here. It's kind of like when Bruce Wayne reluctantly goes to a party, he's usually going to find out some information. Or when he hangs out in the slums of Gotham as Magic Malone, he does so to get information, not just because he wants to be around people. So there, in that sense, there's the ulterior motive as to why Matt is agreeing. But it's interesting, at least at face value, how both characters do a complete 180 about whether they should be taken in on retainer by this conglomerate.
Yeah, Foggy's kind of blinded by dollar signs at first.
Yeah.
But then once he's in the room with Healy and he starts getting some of the really strange answers from Healy to the questions that he's asking, that's when he starts feeling really sketchy about it. He asks him a question and Healy says, well, which one is better? Like basically saying like, I'll give you whatever answer you want. Like, just get me off. But then you're right.
Admitting that he's guilty and I mean, was it really self-defense when you pretty much went there with the intention of taking somebody out? I mean, you ultimately had to defend yourself, right? Because those guys attacked you. But you didn't go there with the intention of, I just wanted to bowl.
No, he was up to nefarious dealings, obviously. And even if he was attacked, he subdued both of the attackers and the boss guy. He was on top of him. So they were all three on the ground. And at that point, I think the self-defense claim is a little much when you're picking up a heavy bowling ball to repeatedly smash somebody's head in. I mean, he had won the fight.
Yeah.
But hey, man, Nelson and Murdoch are good attorneys, and he doesn't get off totally, because it's basically a hung jury. Healy has obviously very powerful people backing him, and they are able to get to one of the jurors on the jury to compromise them. Matt finds out about this and is able to get that juror to excuse themselves from the trial. But then at the very end, when the verdict comes in, Matt is listening again, and he can hear one of the ladies' heartbeat beating really fast, and she's the one who has turned in a not guilty verdict. So it's a hung jury. But Matt says that that the prosecutor won't retry the case, and he's like, isn't that right, Mr. Healy? So obviously he knows that Healy's got very powerful people working for him.
Right. And so the other thing I liked too was how Daredevil, like the outcome of the trial or the circumstance of the trial directly impacted the Daredevil action in this episode. So like he used the Daredevil persona to dispense justice when the legal system failed at doing so. We see that a lot in the comics, but we also saw that in the Daredevil movie. Remember when that crooked guy, Quesada, I think it was, named after Joe Quesada, um, got off, and then the next scene was Daredevil running, chasing him down the train station, and then he meets his demise by getting run over by the C train. Um, so that kind of mirrored the way Daredevil sort of got justice when the legal way failed. That kind of mirrored both the comics and the movie in a way, which I thought was cool. The way Daredevil's actions were a direct result of the storyline that Matt Murdock, as a lawyer, was in the midst of.
Yep.
That was really cool. I really liked the time I got to spend with Ben Urich, because in the course of time that we spend with him, I think you see how driven he is by first of all putting meaningful stories out into the public, and he's a journalist to get at the truth, which is the essence of the job, and that puts him into conflict with his editor, because all he wants to do at this point is stay afloat and print puff pieces that will sell newspapers.
Right.
But
He makes he makes the comment to Ben that all the people that they know in their industry are now getting paid twice what they're making, and they're writing for blogs sitting at home in their underwear. And Ben's out here doing the real work. He's pounding the pavement, and he's meeting with sources, even mob informants. And he's trying to put the real stories out there that affect people, but his editor's like, those days are gone, man. Like his editor puts him on a story about what color the new subway line should be, and he says we'll make a graphic for it, and we'll give the readers a vote, and it'll be like a big thing. And Ben's like, come on, man, let's tell the stories that matter, but that's not what's selling newspapers.
Right, and it's funny because as altruistic as Ben is, he too is worried about making money. Like if he tells a story of the magnitude that he wants, and it's it's a big hit, and also leads to positive action. From a work point of view, he stands to make some big money, which he needs to support his wife that's in the hospital. So you see that he's not in a position where he doesn't have to worry about the money. He's very much worried about the money as well. But his altruism and good intentions are showing, because he's not just going to settle for the cheap cash in. Much like Nelson and Murdoch aren't just going to settle for the cheap cash in. So there's a parallel there, which I thought was interesting. And I also like that, with in his meeting with the mob informant, the mafia guy is telling him, "Leave it alone, Ben. Like this story could get you hurt," which is a bit of foreshadowing.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was when I watched it the first time around, I was very disappointed. Not how the story plays out, but what ends up happening to Ben, because I like the character, and this actor did a wonderful job of instantly making Ben likable and someone that you sympathize and root for.
Yes. Am I correct? Was there uproar when this came out that the character of Ben Urich was being played by a black man? Was that a thing?
I want to say I hope not, but knowing the comic book movie fan space, there was probably some pushback. Not as much as if it.
You're right. The actor, his name's Vondi Curtis Hall. He is fantastic. He immediately like inhabits the role, and you care about the character immediately. And I think you brought a lot of gravitas to the role,
Yeah,
and even some idealism in a world weary sense. He looks, he's a little beaten down, but he still is out there fighting the good fight and trying to do the right thing.
yeah, agreed. And so I really liked him, and we're going to see some more of him in the upcoming episodes as we go along. Um, but again, another thing this show did really well was the because as you know, Wesley is alluding to his employer, and we see Wesley in the car. We still haven't seen Fisk at this point,
Right.
but they do such a good job in the way every character under the sun is afraid of this guy, from mob enforcement, informants to underlings that work for him, to everybody. That when like there's a build up to this. Oh my God! Like what's he going to be like? And then when you see him, even when he's just staring at a painting and having a what amounts to a simplistic, innocuous conversation with Vanessa, he's still a creepy, imposing SOB. Um, and so well done on the writer's point of view for creating that mystique. All the actors involved that have to sell that, and then at the end when we see him, Vincent D'Onofrio's mannerisms, paying that off and still looking at a painting disturbing and creepy. So I really got that sense while watching it. And then the fight scene. I mean, there was nothing on the level of the hallway scene that we saw last episode, but the in tight uh, street alleyway battles that were very brutal were still uh, engrossing fight sequences
Yeah.
and very engaging. So
Yeah, Healy was uh, a good opponent for Daredevil. We saw him make very quick work of the two like guards in the bowling alley at the beginning
yeah,
of the episode.
yeah,
And you're right, this is a much different kind of fight than the one that we saw in episode 2, which was very sprawling. It's multiple bodies going at it, going from one room to the next, down the hallway and stuff. This, like you mentioned, is very in tight. It's a one-on-one fight, and they seem to be pretty well evenly matched. Healy almost gets the upper hand when he grabs that piece of glass to stab him with, but Daredevil's able to turn it around on him. And obviously, Daredevil wins the fight, and to such a degree that Healy has to take himself out, which was just
well, he's
disturbing.
more afraid of Fisk than
Sure.
Daredevil. Yeah.
Right. He knows that if it gets out that he has shared Fisk's name, it's not just going to be his life is over. It's going to be a very painful end for him.
Right. So, so yeah, is there anything else that you think we haven't touched on that we should, or something specific that you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. We covered most of the angles, I think.
All right, perfect. I'll just mention real quick. Disney Plus gives you the option to skip the intro, but I never do.
Oh no.
I like that title card sequence.
Oh yeah, it's great. I like the music.
Uh,
Yeah. I like the ink coming, the
yeah,
red
it's
blood
very
like flowing
ominous, very
down.
atmospheric, very, very, with the city, you see Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
It works very well. It's not the same, but it's up there in terms of title sequences for shows. Right there with Peacemaker. Now, Peacemaker has a different quality about it altogether, but those are
Right.
two intros that I probably will never skip. Um, so, Just thought I'd
I have gone so far as to download the song from Peacemaker on my phone now. So all I got to say is Siri, play "Do You Really Want to Taste It?" and it starts.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine that's your ringtone walking around. You know, every time it rings, you have to stop and do the dance. That would be pretty funny. But I digress. But so we covered pretty much everything. So we can go ahead and give some final thoughts and a letter grade. So go ahead, Chris.
Sure. Final thoughts. Really enjoyed this episode. We got some good courtroom drama. We got some good Daredevil fight sequences. A little bit of intrigue with Nelson and Murdoch, not knowing, what they're getting into when they're dipping their toe into that shallow water. But then Murdoch just goes ahead and jumps right in. So altogether, I really enjoyed this episode. It makes me look forward to the next one for sure. So I'll say, I mean, it's not my favorite episode of the season. Out of how many episodes is the season? Like 8, 10?
I believe it's 8.
Oh no, yeah. So for me, I'll say A minus.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah, for me, like I said, I love the fact that it showcased the courtroom / lawyer side of Matt Murdock. I think that was really interesting. And especially how it correlated with him getting involved on the Daredevil side, like that worked hand in hand with each other. I really like that. Um, I loved getting the street level pounding the pavement journalism from Ben Yerk. That was nice to see. Um, I I really liked the way uh, Wilson Fisk was continually built up as a threat. That build has been really nice, and so we're now going to start seeing the fruits of that buildup. And from what I remember, he warrants that buildup and pays it off in spades. And in case I haven't mentioned this before, I noticed it specifically in this episode with Deborah Ann Wall. If there was any doubt about it, she most certainly is on the list. With that said, I'm also going to give the show an A minus, the episode, I should say, and I can't wait to dive deep again into episode 4. But until we do that, you can always find us on the various social medias and outlets and things like that. So, Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Twitters at Chris N. Harrelson, or just search for Commodore Schmidlap. I will be there. If Adam will post about this episode in the Facebook group. So if you have any questions, comments, any of that stuff, I'll see you over there.
Indeed, I will. And if you want to find that Facebook group, it's listed in the description below. Click that. I will add you. We can continue the conversation there. You can also find me on Twitter at Adam_LeafsFan. You can. There's a Twitter network, or sorry, Twitter page for the podcast network at MMNPDC. And I've also gone ahead and created a personal Mastodon account just in case Twitter goes to the shits and Elon Musk runs it into the ground, which is a distinct possibility at this stage. I don't know that my handle there off by heart yet. I just created it like 2 days ago. So I will put the link in the description below. And if you want to follow me there instead, you can. And I will interact with you there as well. But either way, until next time, remember that Charlie Cox as Daredevil is forever. From the first time he successfully debates courtroom to the last. So long, everybody.